Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to watch the video and hang out with me a little bit. Really appreciate that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about the advantages and the disadvantages of using fluorocarbon fishing line. We've talked a lot about fishing line on the channel before, but I really want to lay out some of the strong points of fluorocarbon and some of the weak points so you can make a determination based upon the technique that you're fishing. There's really three different type of lines that you need in fishing, and so every one of them has their own purpose. But specifically, we'll talk about fluorocarbon today. And also, guys, this is the fluorocarbon I use right here, and I have for decades. This is the Seaguar and Vizex fluorocarbon. I think it's the best on the market. I absolutely love this stuff. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. If you guys would like to try school, you can get it through that link in the description there. It's a really good way to help the channel out by using that. I really appreciate that. Okay guys, several different advantages. Let's talk about the advantages first and we'll get into the disadvantages. Big advantages of fluorocarbon line, it's almost invisible. Very difficult for the fish to see. It's more invisible than monofilament, definitely more invisible than braided line. Second thing behind that is it has significantly less stretch than monofilament line. Fluorocarbon line probably has, I'm gonna guess 25% less stretch than mono. So this is really important. Say for example, if you make a long cast out there with a crankbait or whatever lure, a long cast, when you set the hook, you can get a lot better hook set with fluorocarbon line because you don't have the stretch involved. Now, obviously, it has more stretch than braided line, which has zero stretch, and sometimes you want that. But the advantage of fluorocarbon over monofilament is it does have far less stretch. And finally, guys, with that, the big advantage is the diameter of fluorocarbon line. Fluorocarbon line is significantly smaller in diameter. Therefore, you can use a lot smaller diameter fluorocarbon lines and still have the same strength as a heavier monofilament line. And this will allow you to have, to fish finesse baits better. You still have the power, but you still have the invisibility in the small diameter. It allows you to get baits like crankbaits down a lot deeper and still maintain the pound test of strength on it. So those are the three main advantages of it. Now, the disadvantages of the fluorocarbon line, in my opinion, there's really only one disadvantage to it, and that is you can't really fish a stationary topwater lure with it because fluorocarbon line will sink. And if you're fishing a bait like a Zaraspook or something, or maybe a popper like a chugger, when you cast it out there, if you let that topwater set, that line will sink and it'll make that topwater go nose down into the water. So you have to use monofilament or braided line with a topwater lure unless you're reeling it steady across the water. But if you have a topwater lure that you're actually letting set in the water, a prop bait, chugger, spook, anything like that, really not a good choice. Not a good choice for a weight bait or anything. That's a big disadvantage of it. Another disadvantage of fluorocarbon line, as far as if you're fishing like real thick matted vegetation, like with a frog or something out there, you still have stretch with that line. So that's a situation you need to go to braided line if you're fishing like, throwing frogs out over lily pads or mats where you need pure power with it. But overall, guys, there's very few disadvantages of using fluorocarbon line for most fishing techniques. I'm going to say that probably 90 to 95% of the fishing techniques that are in bass fishing, fluorocarbon line is the best choice by far. There's only 10% of the lures out there where it doesn't, and those 10% would be topwater lures or fishing over matted vegetation or something like that, which is an exception to the rule a lot of times. During the course of a year, if I look back at my own fishing and I see what percentage of fluorocarbon line versus monofilament and braided line I use, I definitely use fluorocarbon line at least 95% of the time in my fishing. There's only 5% of the time, and again, that's with topwater, something like that I'm using monofilament or braided line. And also, guys, we've talked about this before, and for some reason it seems to be a controversial topic, which it shouldn't be, is I use straight fluorocarbon on my spinning reels. I do not like the braided fluorocarbon deal. I don't, for a lot of different reasons. I've done videos on it. You have 2 weak links. It takes a lot longer to tie it. In my opinion, the fish can actually see the leader coming down into the water. And I just have a lot more confidence in using straight fluorocarbon line. So it's a confidence preference there. But I can tell you right now that I'll give you guys an example here. A lot of the on-the-water lessons I do in the wintertime here, I get a lot of these guys that show up with a spinning rod trying to fish like a jerkbait with a spinning rod, because I fish all my jerkbaits on spinning rods. They never catch any fish on there. You can't fish something like a jerkbait on a braided fluorocarbon. You got to use straight fluorocarbon. So most of the time, guys, you can pretty much get by with it. 95% of the time, fluorocarbon is a big advantage. It's a little bit more expensive than monofilament for sure, but for some of your techniques, like if you're really trying to maximize the depth or you're really trying to be finessy in your presentations, nothing's going to beat fluorocarbon. It's going to add up to more bites. So hope it helps out, guys. Let's see it.